Hi, welcome to the A.D.K Rock and Metal channel. My name is Kirk, and today's guest, we have got the predominantly Sheffield-based psychedelic sludge band Kurokuma joining us, specifically Joe Allen, who's the drummer, founder member, and co-songwriter. We're really going to be digging into the band's current album. It was self-released on the 9th of August. It's called Of Amber and Sand, and it's a follow-up to their highly rated 2022 record Born of Obsidian. So welcome to the channel, Joe. Do you say off camera you're in Albania at the moment?
That's correct, yeah, far from Sheffield, just traveling around really, and I've ended up in the Balkans. I'm leaving in like a few days, so yeah, I like it here though, it's good.
So are you going to perhaps go to Montenegro, North Macedonia, Serbia while you're there?
I've been to Serbia, really didn't like it actually. Lovely people, but I didn't like the country. And then yeah, I might go to Montenegro at some point, or Kosovo. You know, there's so many places that I think British people don't really think about in this part of the world. So that appeals to me to kind of explore them and see what they're like.
Yeah, the name of the band, as a northerner, someone from Lancashire, because I don't really emphasize vowels, I was always struggling with this. And then when I realized it was a Japanese word, it's really easy to pronounce. So Kurokuma, when I pronounce it like that, that's fine. Just give us the background then. What's your connection to Japanese culture or the country of Japan?
So it was, I studied Japanese at university. In Sheffield University. And then in my third year, I did an exchange and I went and studied in Kobe. And then when I graduated, I got a job basically as a translator, working for the government in a place called Aomori, which is in the very north. It's at the very northern tip of the main island. And Kurokuma, the name, which you pronounce great actually, and most people don't. They normally like fuck it up in some way. But you're right. I mean, if you just look at how it's written, Japanese, it's a fairly phonetic language. You can normally just say it as it is. So you did great there. But so Kurokuma is the name of a waterfall in Aomori Prefecture, and I visited it one day. Because at the city hall where I was working, there was a cleaner lady. She was really nice, tiny little Japanese woman, like in her 60s, and she used to talk to me every day. And one day she came up to me and she said, I know you're new to Japan, so me and all my friends are going on a coach trip to see the waterfall. Do you want to come with us? So yeah, I got on this coach with like 50 OAPs, shall we say. And went and saw this waterfall, and it was really cool. I'd never seen a waterfall, one that big in person. And we actually all got filmed because there was like a news crew there for some reason. So I ended up on TV that day as well. But yeah, that's where the name comes from. It's a waterfall in Japan, and it means black bear, which you might know because you told me you're into Japanese stuff. But that wasn't really why we picked it. It was more just the sound of the word.
Yeah, it is certainly easier to pronounce now that I know it's Japanese. I don't speak any Japanese, and I'd be intimidated by it. So I'm impressed that you can read and write Japanese, and you can even train your brain to read from right to left. I mean, that alone, and the fact that obviously it's a different alphabet, no Latin characters inevitably. It's what is it? Is it like a Confucianist alphabet or origin?
Well, it just comes from Chinese, I guess. Well, the kanji come from Chinese, but then you've also got other bits like the hiragana and the katakana, which Chinese doesn't have. And so, yeah, I think Japanese like to think it's a very pure language, but it did originate in China and then kind of got modified in Japan. That's my understanding of it. But yeah, I mean, like I say, I did it for 4 years in total at uni. So it was my full-time thing really. But I did it from scratch. When I went to uni, when I started, I didn't know any of it. They said in the 6 weeks holidays before you come, learn all the like I say, the hiragana and the katakana, which are like the basic phonetic alphabets. And then from there, over the 4 years, we started to learn all the kanji, of which there are like, over 10,000. So,
Yeah. What a background. So before we get on to talking about the band, I know that have you been doing a lot of teaching English abroad? Is that what you do at the moment as a digital nomad?
No, that's not what I do now. I used to. When I lived in Japan, I was an English teacher, but I haven't done that for a while. I work in like kind of web development, SEO type stuff at the moment.
Yeah. That's good because I mean, writing music like this, it's such a niche genre. Inevitably it's not going to be selling millions, is it? And the industry's changed so much. Fantastic album, I've got to say. Can I just ask one thing about when you did an interview with the Quietus in August 2022? You were talking about how the band formed, you and Jacob, and you said we both love traveling, we both love experiencing other cultures, and we love metal and doom. So just give us a background. What's his story? I think his surname's Armenian, isn't it? Is it Jacob or Jacob, by the way?
we call him Jake. I think I once called him Jakob for a joke. The interesting thing is, I actually learned about Jake's heritage a bit more on this album because we thought it was worth putting something in the press release. It's something that Jake never really told me loads about. I knew he was from Armenia, and I knew that his family now live in Turkey. So yeah, I guess that's where his. In fact, I don't know if that's where his name comes from, but I know his family are Armenian, and I think he's also said. I think it ended up in the press release. He's got a complicated relationship with that, but both him because of his background and me because of my traveling and stuff, and then the other original, well, George, who used to be in the band and played bass for us, he was Romanian. So I think all three of us were very much aware of a load of stuff going on outside the metal scene, going on outside the UK, and just like the Western mindset. And we always really tried to bring that in. It's something that is a huge part of our lives, and so it just kind of seeps into the music naturally, I guess.
Yeah, I can see also. Let's talk about the band then. And I can see you played that legendary Brutal Assault Festival in the Czech Republic. Now, I went in 2019, life-changing experience. When did you play the festival?
Oh, so we played it once in 2018 and then once in last year, 2023. So if you'd have gone a year earlier, you might have seen us. But yeah, we've done it twice, and it's great. Like you say, it's my favorite European festival. It's just like everything just makes sense because it's in a fortress, right?
Yeah.
And that really sets the tone for it. And I really rate the lineup and how it's put together. So that's been like a highlight for us for sure, both of those times.
Me and my friend, who's the co-founder of Scream Blast Repeat, we still talk about that 2019, and we thought we'd be going every year, and then COVID, it got suspended for 2 years, and then we've not gone back, and it's now such a legendary event. We're like, maybe we shouldn't ever go back because it might never live up to what it was. But the lineup was incredible, like Meshuggah, Anathema, Anthrax, Ginger, like such a wide range, Prong, all these great bands, Decapitated. So it's great to see that Kurokuma, we're playing that. You've played it twice. And you're right, that it's an old Austro-Hungarian military fortress, isn't it? There's just so much going on.
Yeah, no, I mean, we are a small band, and I think we're one of them bands that, people who are more inclined to listen to mainstream metal, we're probably not for them. You have to dig a bit to find us, and you have to have probably listened to a lot of music to really understand what we're getting at. So we're well aware of that, but that's why being asked to play a festival like that, it is a highlight for us because They're not booking us because we're a massive draw. They're booking us because they like what we're doing. And I know that because, the guy who runs it is, well, we've spoken to him, and yeah, he's the kind of person, Thomas, who will just go and book smaller bands because he likes the music and he respects what they're doing. And you can't say that of all festivals, and I don't really hold it against them, because sometimes when you're putting a bill together, you've got to think about how much of a draw each band has. But Brutal Assault, they don't really view, I guess they view it like that with the bigger bands, but then they just, if they like a band, they'll just put them on. They don't care about the reputation. And yeah, we'll forever be thankful for that.
Have you had? The guy who runs Arctangent, it's a bit like that, isn't he? He just books his favorite bands. He doesn't care how big they are. Have you played Arctangent?
No, and all the time, everyone's always saying to us, "You should play it," and it's like, well, yeah, we'll play it if we get asked. We haven't been asked yet. I'm sure he knows who we are. But yeah, hopefully one day. I do think, well, I know people. I know who goes, and I know they'd like us. So hopefully one day that can happen. Yeah.
Yeah, people do know who you are. I didn't realize, right, this merchandise makes Sludge grim again. Is that something Kurokuma have created? Is that your slogan?
Yeah. I mean, it was yeah. So I did put on gigs in Sheffield with my mate Craig, Holy Spider, and I think it was just like an online chat. Maybe it was a Facebook chat, and we were just joking around. And he just said at one point, he just said, "Make Sludge great again." And then I just thought, no, make Sludge grim again. And then I think we were just saying that would be great on a cap. And so it was one of them things, kind of started as a joke, and then we started selling them. I didn't know whether to do it via Kurokuma because it didn't. None of that stuff had our name on it, and I've never thought we're like a really grim sludge band, to be honest. I mean, we're a sludge band, but I won't call us grim. But we started selling them at shows, and then they just sell out. And in the end, we've done like 7 runs of the caps, and then we did some patches as well. And someone messaged me about it the other day. People are always messaging me about it, but we stopped because I don't know. It kind of started to. It's not us. It's not us at the end of the day. Like, we're not a grim sludge band. It was fun to do for a joke for ages, but yeah, it kind of started to eclipse what Kurokuma is in a way.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that's it. If you got one, great, just hold on to it, but we're not doing it anymore.
Yeah, because I didn't realise that that was your merch, because here in Hertfordshire, sludge, doom, post metal, got a big scene here. And shout out to Andrew Bisgrove. He's the drummer in a band called Praetorian. You've probably heard of them. And he was wearing it, and I was laughing. I was like, "Oh, that's a great slogan." He didn't tell me that it was a Kurokuma merch, but you guys are popular here in the scene. That's how I know about Kurokuma, because of the bands here in Hertfordshire. They're big fans of Kurokuma's music. And one of the guys actually reviewed your 2022 album for our sister organisation, Scream Blast Repeat. So yeah, I just didn't realise until today that was kind of your trademark, that name. Do you know when you said you're not grim, it is more meditational, isn't it? Psychedelic, progressive. Don't get me wrong, it's really heavy, and there's a lot of extreme metal in there as well. But I read also in that Quietus interview, you were saying that sludge has just become a catch-all term, especially for like pentatonic stoner metal bands, and it's not really, is it? Because sludge its origins are hardcore, aren't they? Really, and there's
right.
Really aggressive vocals.
Yeah, I mean, the lines between doom, stoner, and sludge are quite blurry anyway, right? But I think perhaps 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, when we were starting and when we were all coming up from that, I think a lot of like really bluesy stuff that I think sat more in the stoner category was getting called sludge. And I think, I try not to get too hung up on genres and stuff, but it never felt right to me. And yeah, I think the intent behind sludge is different. I think with that, like you say, pentatonic, that's a good way to describe it. That kind of bluesy, stoner, riffy thing. Great. I mean, I've listened to so much of that stuff, it doesn't do much for me anymore. Whereas sludge still packs a punch for me. I think there's still like an evil and a darkness, like a menacing feel that kind of it just gets lessened when you start talking about it as stoner, because to me stoner is quite positive music on the whole, just like feel good party music in a way. Whereas sludge, it is kind of there is a grimness at the heart of it. But yeah, we definitely do our own spin on that. We do like to retain that darkness, but we've never been ones for writing lyrics like your typical sludge lyrics that you might hear from I Hate God or Down. We're just not that. We're just not those people. Like, obviously, we have our own struggles in life, but we're not the kinds of people to write lyrics about them. We'd rather write lyrics about things that are a bit more, esoteric, meditative, like you say, psychedelic. So that's kind of how we've ended up with our own sound and our own kind of lyrical themes and stuff like that.
Yeah, that leads on to the next question. So the 2022 debut album Born of Obsidian, that explored Mesoamerican cultures, didn't it? The Olmecs and the Aztecs. Can you just explain to what
You've done your research.
I do know who the Aztecs are. I mean, my background's in history. The Olmecs, I didn't know they were the first civilization in Mesoamerica until doing my research today. But for our viewers, do you want to just give us an explanation of what if there is a concept or the themes are for the new album? Because I definitely hear some like Balkan musical influences. But intellectually, what is it about this album?
So it's about time, really. It's different songs, 6 different songs on all different themes of time, themes within time. So like the first song, that is about kind of presence and meditation, you could say, mindfulness, you could call it. And then the second one is about immortality. And then the third one is about the first ever clock, the first water clock. So, they're all about time, but just very different angles on that subject. And that really happened because of the last track on the album, Chronoclasm. That's been a song it's been there since 2017. It's been in our set for a good few years. And Jake wrote that. He wrote the lyrics back then. It's always been about time. And, there are some quotes from Ozymandias, the poem by Shelley. And so it really came out of that, because that was the first song that we knew was going to be on the album. We'd kind of been saving it. And we thought, that's a great theme. It's something we've got a lot to say about. And then it just went from there. But then in with that, you've got the sound, which is, I would call Middle Eastern and a bit Balkans, I guess. I never thought of it as Balkans when we were doing it. I always thought of it as more kind of Turkish. Like, I was listening to a lot of like Dabka, which is like from Palestine and Lebanon around that time. But Jake was already living in Bulgaria at that time. So to him, it was more of that Balkans thing when he was playing a lot of his solos and stuff. So we've got the time concepts, and then we've got that Middle Eastern sound, and they just really seem to work together, I think. And then of Amber and Sand, we were really pleased when we landed on that as a concept as well, because for me that ties everything together. Obviously you've got the sand, and that speaks to the Middle Eastern thing. Mm-hmm. And then to us, this gets really conceptual now, but sand is meant to be like time. The infinite nature of sand is meant to represent the infinite nature of time. And then amber, on the cover of the album, we've got a mantis trapped in amber. And so that was meant to represent one tiny moment. And it was the name and the album cover, they were meant to be speaking about the duality, I guess, those two things. And so it's all those kind of things that we're discussing really on this album.
See, that's fascinating because it's well known that you guys as a band have got this great arsenal of songs, some of which you've had for years and you're saving up for future records because you want them to be coherent. And as you said there, the concept here is time, and there's a song about the first ever water clock. That's really interesting. What is the oldest song on this album that you've had in your repertoire, over the years that finally was unleashed on Of Ember and Sand?
Yeah, so it is that Chronoclasm one, the last track. Everything else is definitely a lot more recent. But that one comes, I think it was 2017 that we finished that. So that was when our old bassist George was still in the band. And I was speaking to him last night. He's traveling all over Europe at the moment. But whenever we play that song, or whenever I think of that song, I think of him. He was a big part of writing that, because I don't know if you remember, it kind of starts with just me, just drums. And then his bass comes in and it's like a very kind of synthy cosmic bass sound, and it's just me and him. And he's a percussionist. So that was me and George just kind of jamming together and just doing this very like drums and bass thing. And that's where that song came from really.
Can I ask about the current bass player, Zach Wells? Is he a Yorkshire lad? Is he someone you've grown up with? How did he join the band? He joined in 2022, so that was after the debut album, wasn't it?
Yes. Zach is about as Yorkshire as you can get. He's from Hillsborough in Sheffield. Don't know if you know Sheffield.
I know of Sheffield Wednesday, so Hillsborough obviously I'm familiar with.
Yeah, so Hillsborough is where the stadium is, and so that's where I grew up actually as well. So me and Zach, we kind of were both Hillsborough lads at heart. But I got to know him. I don't know if you've ever seen a film we were on called The Doom Doc. If you haven't, you'd probably find it quite interesting. That was like around 2017 as well. My friend made that, but I used to work in a head shop in Hillsborough. So do you know what a head shop is?
No. As soon as you said that, I was like, what the hell is that?
That's like bongs, rolling papers,
okay,
vapes, anything to do with smoking weed, basically.
Right.
And so I worked in that shop that was actually literally opposite Zach's flat. And he used to come in, and I think he got to know about Kurokuma that way. And, we just used to talk and obviously stayed in touch. I knew he was a metalhead. He's a proper Yorkshireman and a proper metalhead. So we had a lot to talk about all the time. And I know his dad as well, because his dad has played drums in a few bands like in the Sheffield scene. And when I used to see his dad used to say to me, if you ever need it, because he's a guitarist, he plays bass for us now, but he's a guitarist, and he used to say, if you ever need a guitarist, like, definitely consider Zach. And I was like, look, in my head I used to think, there's no way we need a guitarist because we got Jake, and like, if Jake leaves, then, it's not really Kurokuma anymore. But it just so happened that when George left, we really needed a bassist. And I just asked him by chance once, and he was like, yeah, I can play bass. And he was like, I'll come down and we'll have a jam. And it turned out he's a great bassist and he's an amazing vocalist.
Yeah.
And at that session, Jake said to him, all right, just give it a go with your vocals on the mic. And he was like, all right, just give me a second. And he'd never properly done them before. And he just started like belting it out straight away. We were like, fucking hell. And you can hear it on the album, he's the first vocal you hear on the album, and it's so powerful. And I'm so glad we've got him in the band for those vocals. So, it's been interesting working with Zach, because this is kind of his first proper band. And so his first gig was in Iceland with us, with Conan and Slamatics. And it was throwing him in at the deep end, it really was. And, it was one of them where we got to know each other very quickly because we were traveling with him and, kind of sleeping in the same room as him and all that. But yeah, it's he's for me, he's an important part of this album. Yeah.
Yeah, you just mentioned two bands. I do see Kurokuma in that. Conan, obviously, these Liverpudlian legends, probably the heaviest band in the world, aren't they? And then, yeah, as you said, there's Slowmatics. You probably know that band near where I live called Everest Queen. Have you played any gigs with them?
Yeah, I think we played Hitchin actually with them. Is it Club 45?
Club 85, right? Okay, you played that.
85.
Yeah, that's the heart of the scene.
Yeah, I think we played with them, and Jimmy's a nice guy. Always sends me messages online, and I don't think he's in the band anymore, is he? But that's how I got to know them. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I know quite a few people from that scene. Yeah.
Yeah, Jimmy's now in a drone metal band called Ohm.
Yeah.
They've just released an EP. I just reviewed that. Yeah, I'll tell him I was speaking to you when I next see him. So let's move on to the album then. Yeah, I always like to pick out 3 tracks that stood out for me. And I'm just looking over my notes when I reviewed it for Scream Blast Repeat, and definitely track number 1, I Am Forever, stood out for me. Now I know you're the drummer. I get the impression that you also play a guitar. Am I right there? You don't? Okay. But you probably know. Actually, before going to this, when you're writing music, what can you do as the drummer if you're writing the songs? Because obviously you're a guitar-based band, aren't you?
Yeah, I definitely think. I mean, I used to play guitar in like secondary school. I wasn't any good. I was in like a punk band, or like a ska punk band actually. And so all I could play really was like bar chords. But even at that time, I was the one writing the songs. Even though I didn't have much technical ability, I think one of my strengths is, yeah, songwriting. Not necessarily playing the notes, but generally what happens in our band is Jake will come with like the raw material of just like a riff. And then I really help him like work it out and suggest the next part or help him tweak it. And so, I'll just like hear it and then I'll hum it to him. And that's kind of a lot of how we do. But with our band, a lot of it is very rhythmic as well. So as the drummer, it's like if I start playing something or suggest something, it's usually the case that then impacts the riff quite substantially. Do you know what I mean? So like, I'm not saying that's what necessarily happened, but I Am Forever's a good example of that, because it's like literally we're all playing the same thing, like da 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 da. And that's one of them things that we figured out kind of after a few years of doing Kurokuma, that everything sounds sick if you're just all playing the same thing at the same time. So we kind of do a lot of that now. But yeah, that's kind of how we write songs, I guess.
Yeah, because it's definitely didn't want that to be a slight, because I know that drummers write metal music. Carcass, it's shocking when you realise that it was Ken, the drummer, who wrote all that. It's like, you've got the best guitar player in the world. Why is he not writing this?
Okay.
So yeah, it definitely happens. And then you've got that. Have you heard of that Swedish band Horndal? They're named after their village where they're from. I was interviewing the drummer. He writes the music as well. So yeah, it's not that unusual. But getting back to I Am Forever, what I think stood out for me, yeah, I do like that simple, you went chromatic riff, and that really does bubble through the amps, doesn't it? And I've said the vocals, the more bloodthirsty vocals, I said they're rabid in the way a carnivorous hunter-gatherer might sound if trapped in a prison cell on a diet of sweet corn and peas. But is that who's actually doing those vocals? The more bloodthirsty parts in the middle of this song.
That's Zach.
That is Zach. Right.
I mean, what happens in that song is that one goes for the verse. It's like Zach, Jake, Zach, Jake, Zach, Jake, and they alternate like that. And then in the chorus, when it gets quite raw, that's Zach. Yeah.
Yeah, spellbinding. And yeah, do you know when we're talking, you had in your head Turkish culture, didn't you? Turkish music. I was thinking like yeah, North Macedonia rather than the Arabian Desert. I mean, I know Turkey obviously is not the Arabian Desert, but what I said at the end of this song was you could imagine Tom G. Warrior, the Celtic Frost legend, laying down these riffs. It really reminded me of I'm hoping the next Triptychon album basically will sound like this. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's great. I mean, that's music to our ears, because I think someone said that about the last album as well, and that just makes me really happy. I like it when, well, they're just a legendary band, obviously. I mean, they're just one of them bands. Like, no, you can't have a bad thing to say about them. They're just great. So to get, yeah, any comparison like that, it's always a good thing.
Yeah, and I've interviewed quite a few bands from Sheffield, and they all like that Celtic Frost album, Monotheist. One band who was singing your praises, Terminal Sun. Are you familiar with them?
Yeah, I was listening to their new album the other day. I don't think I've ever met them in person, but I know of them. And yeah, I kind of wish they'd get a bit more attention, because they are good. Got a really cool sound, bit thrashy, bit industrial, bit doomy.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's death metal album of the year. It's industrial death metal. That's what it. Godflesh playing death metal, fantastic album. There's also another band actually that you'll probably be familiar with. Did you mention Craig? Is that the guy from Gozer?
Yeah.
Yes. What a band they are. They're underappreciated as well.
Yeah, I mean, me and Craig, this is why I say you should watch the Doom Doc, because it's the story of me and Craig, really, when we ran Holy Spider, and just trying to get something going in Sheffield. And, I don't really speak to Craig much, because he doesn't like the internet, so he's never online, and he's kind of hard to get hold of. I mean, he's always been like that, but, looking back on those times, one of my favourite times, just putting on gigs with Craig, and they used to be called Archelon back in the day.
Yeah.
And, we used to, that's kind of how we got started, like when we started, we didn't know anyone. And we ended up playing this like really weird, swanky pub in Sheffield with them. We were actually supporting them. I remember the floor was so shiny that my drum kit was just moving away from me the whole set. One of them where, like, it's a venue, you shouldn't be playing metal. But that's what we used to do back in the day. And yeah, and then I know Kieran, the bassist of Gozer, we ran a business. Well, we set up a mushroom farm. He's still doing it. I kind of exited, but I think I've still got some shares in it. But yeah, I know those guys really, really well.
What about that post-black metal band, Baal? They're from Sheffield, aren't they? You probably know those.
Yeah.
Are they in the documentary?
Yeah.
I need to watch this. What's it called then? The Doom Doc.
Yeah. Oh, you'll love it. I mean, so Craig was in Baal at that point when we were in the documentary, and so was Stefan, and neither of those two are in the band anymore. But yeah, I mean, I know all these guys. I put Baal on at Doomlines, not this year, but the year before, and yeah. If it's a Sheffield metal band, I'm pretty sure I'll know it. Yeah,
there's a hell of a scene there, isn't it? I mean, when I'm looking back over the last 2 years of bands I've interviewed, a lot of them are Sheffield. Even that hardcore band, Rough Justice, they're from Sheffield. They're Sheffield, aren't they?
Yeah. It's great. I mean, for whatever reason, Sheffield just gets overlooked, I think. Not just in metal, but in everything. But at the end of the day, it's like 5th biggest city in the UK, so you're going to get a lot going on. And yeah, I mean, it's one of its strengths. The scene is decent, and I've not got my finger right on the pulse at the moment, because, as you know, I'm not there. But yeah, for the previous 10 years, I've definitely been involved, and it's been great. It's been great. I'm really proud of what we did. Yeah.
So before we move on to talking about track number 5 for me and the viewers, the documentary, I'm guessing we need to go to YouTube. What do we need to be typing in? Because if we put Doom Doc, that's not going to bring it up, is it?
It should do. It's called the Doom Doc.
Okay.
And it's freely available. We made it, and we had a big premiere in Sheffield. Jimmy came to that, and then it got shown at loads of festivals all around the world. And then one thing I always wanted to do with it was put it up for everyone to see on YouTube. And so yeah, just search the Doom Doc; it'll come up. It's on IMDb as well.
I know what'll happen. I'll watch it, become obsessed with it, and I want to email you loads of questions. You're like, piss off.
No, it's fine. Happy to talk about it. Like I say, I'm so happy to have been a part of that, because it was my mate Connor who I'd known for a few years, and they started coming to our gigs, and he was like, this is cool what's happening. And like I say, me and Craig at that time, we were starting to gain a bit of momentum, and really looking back on it, do something. And so Connor was like, can we just start coming to more of your gigs, because I think we might want to make a short film about it. And it just kind of snowballed into this feature-length thing, and Conan are in it, Primitive Man are in it, Kirk from Crowbar's in it. And so yeah, it captures that time, like 2016, 2017, when Doom, Stoner Sludge was still, well, it was a big thing. It was kind of like the subgenre of choice at that point in time. And so there was a lot of interest in it, a lot of people coming out to shows. And I'm just so glad we got it all on film. Yeah.
Yeah, because it feels like that here in Hertfordshire. It's definitely the glue that holds it together, that post-metal sludge, Doom, Praetorian and Everest Queen, Denali, all these great bands, and we're proud of it here. But it's great to see, like you said, this is a full feature-length film. I just wasn't aware of it. So I'm after this interview, I'm going to go to the supermarket, get some food, finish watching my Japanese drama called Riding a Unicorn on Netflix. Then I'm going to watch the Doom Doc.
Sounds like a good night.
Sounds like a plan. Track number 5 then. Is this pronounced Fenjan or Fenyan?
Don't know. We call it Fenjan. I mean, it's like Persian. It's like Farsi. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't claim to know. But that's the name of the water clock.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah, because I've put here, it thrives on moody guitar shapes, concentrated on the low-end frequencies. And it opens up possibilities. We expect to hear some finger tapping. Then the vocals and palm-muted rhythms explode at 2 minutes. And it reminded me the guitar tone of that Norwegian black metal band 1349. I think it's because I just listened to their album when I was reviewing it. And yeah, the guitars, again, the melodies gravitate towards the Orient, don't they? Was this one of the easier songs to write on the album, in your opinion?
No. I mean, this was probably the hardest because, well, it goes back to that Dabka thing I mentioned a bit back. That's really the rhythm that starts it. And what we try and do is sometimes try and create a point A and a point B and make them as different from each other as we can, because it starts with that dum da dum da, and to me that doesn't sound like metal. I'm playing this Middle Eastern beat and Zach's just playing these 2 notes, and to me that's not metal. And then Jake comes in with the wailing guitar type thing, and so we loved that. We loved how it sounded. We loved that it didn't sound like metal. But then we said, how about we try and get to some kind of Slipknot metalcore thing 3 minutes in. And so that's the idea. But we never like to take the easy way to do that. We never like to cheat. We never like to just I don't know, maybe you could do a cymbal choke and then switch genre, but that's not how we like to do things. We like to make it a gradual journey, a flow, so that each transition is almost just so natural you don't even see that it's shifting.
That's the sensation I got from this song. It's at what point did this become ultra heavy?
That's great. That's exactly. It's that thing when they say you put a frog in a a cold pot of water and then heat gradually, and then just gets, you know, I know it's a crude analogy, but it's like that. It's like we try and heat you up slowly so you don't even notice all this stuff that's happening around you. And yeah, I mean, that's why it's the hardest song, because you have to really think about every little part of the transition. Like, nothing can be out of place, nothing can seem forced or rushed. So it's almost like an exercise for us. And I don't know if you remember our songs off our last album, but there's one on that called Jaguar, which it kind of came to be. People mention it to us all the time because it's the weirdest. And again, with Fenjan, we wanted that one song on this album where it was just weird, you know. And so that was another reason why we made it.
Definite standout. And then the third one that stands out for me, definitely the heaviest one on the album, track number 9, Crux and Sata. And I just put, I know you're friends with them, but I was just thinking, Conan, beware. You've got a new threat on your right flank. I mean, that sounds unnecessarily the way I've written that. I know you're friends with them, you're not in competition with them, but I just wanted my readers to like be aware. It's like, this is really gonna, you're gonna be feeling this in your chest. And I said the chords linger like commando units sent into the aftermath of the battle to finish off the prisoners and injured survivors. You could call it like Death Doom with a Bongzilla angle. And there's some real good like plectrum plucking bass grooves from Zach on this as well. I'm guessing this has got to be a staple of the live set, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. For me, that's the sludge song on the album. I mean, yeah, it's definitely got elements of death metal in there as well, but yeah, it's just one of them riffs where it's just a proper riff, and you know, when you play it live, you know, people respond to it. So it's been in the set for a while. That's Jake, really. You know, I think he just came with that riff. Maybe I helped him tweak it, but that's a very Jake riff, the main riff to that song. Yeah.
You know, when you, as the drummer, when you get the guitar player to tweak the riff, does that mean you basically get his riff to circle your beat?
No, it's more like
following him. You're like, okay, do this.
It's more like, you know, that riff is like maybe I like changed a note or something.
Right.
I'm like, oh, can you go to this fret instead at the end or something like that? It'll be like, you know, just that final tweak, because it's always good to have someone's, you know, outside opinion. I'm not saying I'm a better riff writer than Jake, but I think when you got two people working together, you're going to end up with something, you know, a better end result. So
yeah, there's more imagination there, isn't there, when the more people involved on that. So what, because I know that you do actually have a home base in Sheffield, but you travel a lot, and then Jake's currently in Bulgaria. Zach, the most Yorkshire man on earth, obviously is still in Sheffield. How difficult does that make it, you know, to plan? I know we talked about Brutal Assault Festival, etc. I always like to know what have you got in the pipeline to get out on the road to promote this?
Well, this is going to be a really boring answer, but like nothing. I was saying this in another interview. I mean, we're a weird band, and we don't do things by the book, and we do make things really awkward for ourselves. And them two have just had kids in the last year. I mean, well, Zach's will be just over a year old. He had them 2 months before Brutal Assault, actually. So yeah, and Jake had one around a similar time. So they're focused on raising their kids. I'm focused on traveling. We got the album out. It was like, well, it's done. Let's get it out. But honestly, I don't know, and we're just not on that treadmill anymore. I mean, I think, you know, from the start of the band till fairly recently, we were very active, and we were playing shows all the time, and there was a period when we were out every weekend, you know, doing something. But that phase of the band is over, really. And it's not that we're pushing the band to one side. We've got other things in life that we want to focus on. And so that's going to change things up, and that's where we're at the moment, and we really don't know because we're just all we're all at a crossroads in our own way. Zach's raising a family, and so is Jake, and me and Jake are in the middle of career stuff, and it's just don't know, just got to focus on that stuff, and so the band does take a backseat, I guess. It just has to for the time being, but it's always going to be there for us to come back to. And I keep saying to people, I think what's going to happen is hopefully we'll get an offer for some festival, and that'll give us a reason to be like, right, let's all meet up in Sheffield and get jamming again, and then see what happens. You know what I mean? That's what I envisage. I don't know if that's going to happen, but
see, I don't see that as a weakness. I don't think, for example, Darkthrone don't play live. That's not held them back. If you use a more mainstream example, and this really baffled the industry, REM in the early 90s, they put out that, is it Out of Time and then Automatic for the People? They put out these two albums in the early 90s, which sell about 18 million between them. They didn't even tour those records. Really? So really, to me, as someone who reviews 8 albums a week, it's all about the record. So I don't care if Kurokuma are touring or not, because the chances are I might not go anywhere because I'm always busy. Whereas a record, I will certainly be listening to it. So my favorite bands, I would rather they just keep putting music out, concentrate on that. We know that artists, if you want to make a career out of it, this is one of the main income streams, isn't it? You've all got careers outside music. So I think this relieves the pressure on you, and you can just focus on writing music. That's what you want to do, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that's where we're at for sure. We've done the touring thing. We've done being on the road all the time, going around Europe, went to Japan, and it's great. And then it just, I don't know, it's not that it gets boring, but it's never as good as at the start. It's kind of, you're just going through the motions. When you tour in the UK, you're literally playing the same venues.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's with the same bands and the same people coming out, and on one hand that's great, but on the other hand, yeah, it's, I don't know, like I say, we're not like those people who just like to stay on the treadmill just for the sake of it, just to keep our name out there. We really don't care. I think maybe we did at the start of the band, but yeah, priorities change, and like you say, the music is the important thing now. Now we want to put something down that's means something, and that is from within us, from within our souls. That is the thing that matters. And then it's there. It's a physical thing. It's going to stay there. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is, if you want to be on the road all the time, you've got to rearrange your whole life to make that happen. And we're just over it, because that would mean that, for example, I can't travel around Europe. It would mean that Jake can't be there to raise his kids. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's kind of how it is. Yeah.
See, before we wrap up the interview, one thing, I'm not a musician, and in some ways, I know what I would find difficult. Get into a venue, you're headlining, 6 hours, do your sound check, you can't have a drink because you're a musician, because you won't be able to play live. I think I would find that so difficult. Have you ever just been thinking, God, I'm here for 5 hours, I want to just have a beer and get smashed, but obviously you can't because you've got to take to the stage?
Well, I don't drink.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, I mean, Zach and Jake do, and George did, and they'll have a couple before they go on, I think. And obviously, we used to smoke a lot of weed as well, and I mean, you can do that stuff. We used to do it just to see what happened, to be honest. We even had this little tradition where we used to do shrooms on the last gig of a tour, and then go and play live just to see what happened. And it's always a bit more challenging. You had to concentrate a lot more. But yeah, no, I don't think that ever stopped us. But I think the worst thing is being in the van all day.
Yeah.
And just being on a motorway. You know, like if you go in Sheffield to London, that's like 7 hours in the van. And that's the annoying part. I mean, it's all right, but like I said, it's great at the start. It's great when you're doing it first 3 or 4 times. Then when you've done it 15 times, there's no novelty to that anymore. So that's really it's the upheaval that, rather than the lack of alcohol and drugs, I think, that annoys people.
Okay, so I think on that, what I should say to our viewers is then go to the band's website or Bandcamp and purchase this album. Buy the physical copy of it. So it's called November and Sand. It was self-released on the 9th of August. You can stream it and download it, obviously, if you want to. Where is the best place to pick up a copy of this album, Joe?
Definitely Bandcamp.
Yeah.
That's really our only merch store. So, yeah, like I say, you can download it, stream it from there as well. So,
excellent. Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us. I feel I've learned a lot about the band and you as well, in addition to what's already out there, because there's some really interesting interviews, certainly with you, The Quietus and Moshville Times and various sources. And you've played Brutal Assault, which we both agree is the best festival in Europe. So, yeah, thanks for joining us on the show. And, yeah, take care.
It's been fun to chat to you, and you pronounced our name right and did your research. So.